We are here, we got an awesome opportunity to partner with Lusk Archery Adventures. John, it's awesome to have you here.
I'm really eager to get to know Ravin better and incorporate them into my testing for the years to come.
This is a pretty cool opportunity, Adam, for us. And
yeah, something we've never done before.
Yeah, and Mr. John Lusk, you're our maiden voyage. We're up here at Ravin HQ in wonderful winter Superior, Wisconsin. Welcome, John.
Thank you. I have been really looking forward to this. I'm so honored and excited to be here with you.
Yeah. Share a little backdrop of how this relationship came to be. So by the time people see this, going into 2026, it'll be official that we're partnered together, the brand of Ravin and our products. Really honored to be part of the brand of Lusk Archery Adventures as well through your testing. I think what you've done has for the industry in terms of broadheads and that type of stuff. I know for me personally, I'm a gear geek, but it's really helped me to learn, helped me to make choices, and I know it's done that for the entire industry. So as we partner together, hopefully that it'll keep happening. But maybe share a little bit of how this relationship came to be.
Yeah. So I've had my channel that specializes in broadhead testing, but bow hunting in general and other gear testing. But bread and butter is broadhead testing for several years, and it's grown. It's just grown in leaps and bounds each year. I've loved it. It's like a labor of love. I'm passionate about it, and I'm just grateful to have it. And so a couple of years ago, I thought maybe I should incorporate a crossbow into it. It would aid me in my flight testing because of the consistency and the way I can eliminate so many human errors in the flight of the arrow. I know there's a difference between the flight of a bolt and flight of an arrow, but I figured, this could be something cool. So I started doing that about a year and a half ago, a couple years ago, and people responded really well. It's aided my channel. And then I thought, wow, maybe I'm ready for an upgrade of crossbow too. So through a common friend, I heard about you and reached out to you, and lo and behold, you already knew of me and my channel. So I'm like, oh, good.
Who doesn't? That's the question, right? In the archery.
No, I was surprised. I was really surprised, and we just hit it off. I mean, from the very get-go, we just hit it off, and gosh, then one thing led to the next. It happened so fast.
Yeah.
And then we entered into an agreement for 2026 and hopefully beyond that as well. We'll see how it goes. And gosh, here I sit in Superior, Wisconsin at HQ of Ravin Crossbows. I'm really excited about it.
Happy to have you. Adam and myself, I guess there's a lot of people that maybe they don't care to know me, but just for PC purposes, I've been in the industry for the outdoor industry for a lot of years. I've been involved with a vertical bow company for about 18 years, and also was participated in 3 other brands, 2 other besides Ravin in terms of crossbows in various ways, marketing, product development, that type of stuff. And then, I've had the opportunity to come to Ravin a few years ago. Some of the core guys that are here from the very beginning, from design engineers to some of the VPs of the holding company, I've had relationships with for 20 plus years. And so that's kind of how I came into this. But Adam has been here from the beginning. Adam, maybe shoot a little detail about yourself, other than dang good looking.
Yeah.
John and I joke we're in the land of giants, so you know what I mean. I'm like I'm 5'7" with shoes on, and these my neck. I was like, yeah. So anyway,
You're in Norwegian country.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, it's man, what a ride. I got my start in archery when I was young. My dad got me started just from a hunting aspect, and then in college I worked part-time at a pro shop as a bow tech, and then I went from there to managing that pro shop. And then, lo and behold, before Ravin was a thing, luckily I ran into the original owners, and they kind of must have saw something in me, offered me a position, and kind of the rest is history. So I've been here since before we even had a product to sell. As you'd mentioned, some of those old heads per se from the original days, we were doing testing, and we were in a facility, as I kind of alluded to you, John, in some conversation earlier, that, we were very small, humble beginnings to start, and man, did it take off on us from the get-go. So, very, blessed to be a part of Ravin, to be a part of that journey. It seems like it's been, 20, 30 years, but in reality, we're still young. It's only been 10 years, but we're excited about the next 10. Heck, we're excited about the next year. So, and that next year involves Mr. John Lusk.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, come on.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, John, I wanted to, give an opportunity just kind of with this meeting. You and I met on the phone per this common acquaintance that we had. And truth be told, I was a fanboy anyway. So it's like when they mentioned your name, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just for what you do and that kind of, your platform. I've learned from it. I've purchased because of that. And so, taken like a lot of what you've done out in the field and applied it, and it's been really, really awesome. But as we talked on the phone, there was other common, very common things that we had that I think are the platform for life, and that's just men talking about hunting. We weren't shy about our relationship with the Lord. I think that first and foremost for me personally, that's why I do this. I love being around other men and women of the outdoors and the community of the outdoors. 30 years ago, I was a snob bow hunter, vertical bow guy, and there's still some of that out there, but one of the things you and I talked about is, the headline, "A house divided will fall." And so as you are very diverse in your platform, you bow hunt, you've crossbow hunted, and you're taking, multiple designs of broadheads out there, very diverse in your application of your art, so to speak. And so I've as we talked, I thought early on in our conversations, I gave the invite to John, if you'd ever be, willing or you have a want to come up to a Ravin HQ, we'd love to show you, not to convert, but just to show you who we are. Conversion is not something we're really interested in. We're just here to meet people's needs with products. So you took me up on it. You called me very shortly. There were some other things we had to talk about, with partnerships and whatnot. But once that was over, you called me up and like, is this real? And I was like, well, of course, so I don't know your perspective on that, but that's how kind of this happened. And so we're here now. And by the time people see this, we'll be live in our partnership, and we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, when I I should back up. When I incorporated in a crossbow to my test regimen, I got a lot of naysayers. A lot of people said, oh, you're going to lose your vertical bow audience. People are going to dismiss you. I mean, people in the industry professionals, as well as good friends who'd given me advice over the years on my channel, they cautioned me, don't do it. But I'm not like trying to push crossbows, saying that's all everybody should be using this crossbow. Not at all. I hunt primarily with my compound bow, but I thought, there's a place. There's a place for a lot of different hunting tools. I still have a lot of pistols. I still got a lot of rifles. Now, I haven't rifle hunted or pistol hunted in years and years. I just love bow hunting, and I still love bow hunting. But this was a weapon I just was not well versed with, and I love different experiences. Even in hunting, I love hunting different species in different environments, in different states, different countries, and each one has a different appeal. And some people go, oh, whitetail hunting is the best. Oh, hog hunting's the best. And I go, man, it's all good. And I like the difference. And that's how crossbows fit in with me. Is I go, why not see what's great about crossbows? And so I incorporated it in. People responded really well on my channel. Of course, the closet crossbow shooters loved it. And that's a lot more people than I realized. Yeah. They're like, thanks so much. Yeah. Could you do more crossbow stuff? But even the others, the strictly compound bow shooters, saw the value in testing a broadhead at a really high speed, when I can put the crossbow on a tripod with a scope and eliminate, again, human error like this. I see the value in that. So I like to think that I've helped people kind of, warm up a little bit to the idea of a crossbow without trying to push it on them. If they don't like it, they don't want to do it, great, you don't have to do it. But it's appealing. For me, to have a different experience is really appealing, and I've loved it. And I've loved hunting with crossbows as well.
Yeah, I really like your comment there on the closet crossbow user, because as we had mentioned earlier, without getting too specific, but there's a lot of them, way more than what people realize. And like John had mentioned as well, when Ravin came about and was developed, it wasn't like we're going to convert every compound or trad user to a crossbow. That was not our goal. Our goal was we saw a product in the industry that had not advanced technologically in a very long time. It become stagnant. And there was a lot of issues with that product from a standpoint of they were heavy, they were kind of clumsy, they weren't user friendly, they were inaccurate at distance, things of those nature. And we basically saw this need and were blessed with great engineers and went and attacked it and came out with Ravin. And so it's just another tool in the tool chest per se. Because if you walk down the hallways in this office, out this door behind us, and you asked everybody, what do you hunt with? Oh my gosh, they'd have a plethora of things. There's rifle hunters, there's compound hunters, there's crossbow hunters, there's trad hunters. If they could hunt with a spear and a knife, they're doing like, what do you have a tag for would be the question. Or what do I have a tag for? What can I get? And so we're not going to, I guess, play into this infighting. We have enough outside sources and things fighting against our outdoor lifestyle. We don't need to add to the infighting. Yeah. And we're basically trying to bring everybody together. Truly, we're not, like I said before, we're not trying to convert everybody, but here's another option for either a certain season, a scenario, getting somebody into hunting, getting youth into it, getting, just hunting late season to do some doe management at your primary. We don't care, but we'd love you to try out a Ravin.
There you go. And what was fortuitous for me is I decided to incorporate a crossbow before I knew what kind of health challenges I was going to have. And in the last year and a half, I've had 10 different surgeries, mostly on my back, but then that led to a different problem. I had heart surgery and this problem, I've had so many different health issues that then I've gotten to enjoy a crossbow when I needed to use a crossbow. Yeah. And I didn't even plan on that. And I was glad to have already been versed with and own a crossbow at that time. So I can see the value to people that have had health issues or aging. I mean, I'm almost 62 and, I'm getting up there. And again, I'm going to keep shooting a vertical bow as long as I can, but it just fit with my lifestyle as I think it does with a number of others.
Yeah, that's well said. To Adam's point about converting and trying to do that, that wasn't it. It led with great people, a great idea in trying to improve existing designs that have been out there. We joke today about people seeing crossbows in the old Monty Python movies. Like, it's just like, it's awesome, I joke, merely a flesh wound. They'll have to watch that. But, they were always like, oh, it's I don't know, lots of perceptions. Perception is reality to most people, but here's something, for me personally, I've had the opportunity to work inside the archery industry with the vertical bow companies. And I know numbers in peak years. I know numbers, a lot of these companies use the same suppliers for limbs and extrusion, and none of these partners or suppliers are disclosing specific information, but by default of knowing how things operate, you can kind of directionally put together numbers of what's happening. And so I knew that specifically to the company that I work for, with all brands and, the type of units that they moved. Coming into the reason I came here was not necessarily product-led in a crossbow platform, but people-led. And once I embraced that, kind of came into this environment, I became aware of the numbers that are out there in crossbows. It's shocking. So hence, it's funny you bring up the closet crossbow hunter. Adam and I have joked about this, right? These guys, if people knew how many there were, not to say by association of number, everybody should be all in, because that's not going to happen. Again, back to perception's reality. What we're really saying is we're really participating in those people's lives that want to have this outdoor experience with a crossbow. And one of the things outside of the injury, is why I had to use it, which is a kind of a common thing, legislation, a lot of these hot topics. What we define is there's this meat of the crossbow demographic that there's such power in it. I've met families that they can take this weapon and introduce it to any person of any stature, size, and age within their family that has no prior hunting experience, and give them the ability to be, you said it this way, being connected with your quarry, that they can get out in the field and literally they can hunt that evening having never touched another, weapon, whether, be a gun or a vertical bow or anything like that, no hunting experience, and they can do that. And that invites people into this environment. That's our perspective. We want to keep building, on that. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun, certainly. But again, it's not the main topic. You are our main topic in this partnership, but it just sort of comes up organically in any crossbow conversation. There's hot points where people are, oh, crossbow, it's a cheat code. One thing when I came here a few years ago, we had a conference room full of a lot of our our VP of sales, Adam. We had VP of this and director of that. All our main leaders were in this room, and I asked the question, okay, the next 3 years you can't use any other weapon. What is your primary weapon that you use in a crossbow building, in a crossbow environment? And I loved that boldly everyone, I heard vertical bow, rifle, and one guy said crossbow. And I thought, this is awesome. And one guy, I remember, took him a minute to answer the question because I could tell he's potentially processing, work for a crossbow company, shouldn't it be a crossbow? But here's the kind of the crux of that thought process. I shared this with you earlier. If you take most of our buddies, ourselves included, grab our house, rip off the roof, dump it upside down, and see what weapons hit the floor that we actually hunt with, I have no friends at all. That's a sad story, but I have no friends that wouldn't have multiple weapons in their arsenal. Guns, whether
There's a lot of guys' wives that they wouldn't want their wives to see what.
Oh
came
yeah,
out of
yeah,
that,
exactly.
Out of that gun room.
There's a reason guys have safes.
See how many bows and guns.
That's a good point. The safes aren't for security for robbers. They're so your wife, hey honey, can I have the code to your? What do you need out of there? I'll get it for you. But a lot of weapons will come out of there, and certainly that would in my house as well. But so I wanted to ask you what you want to ask of us. Anything.
Yeah, good question. I love everything that you shared and the discussions we've already had throughout the day. I wondered, I didn't know the history of Ravin. When you said 10 years, I would have sworn it was much longer, because I just think of Ravin as such a staple and industry leader in many ways, and I know they have been. But as you look back on the industry pre-Ravin and post-Ravin, why Ravin? What impact has Ravin had, aside from being a successful company that's employing people and making jobs selling crossbows? What has it done to the industry? What innovations, what evolutions, what impact has it had?
I think, that's a great question, John. And I think the biggest thing, the first thing that comes to my mind is competition. How does a company or how does a sports team get any better? And it's by having great competition, right? So like I had mentioned earlier, the crossbow world specifically, but also archery in general, was stagnant for quite a while. I had seen that when I was working at the pro shop for many years. I'm sure you saw it while you were at various, manufacturers or helping develop things over the years. But when Ravin developed the first bow, the R9, and released it, all of a sudden it kind of kicked everybody in the pants, whether it was our direct competition or just the industry in general. And they kind of went like, wow. It kind of took everybody aback, like, how is that even possible? Or, the engineering feat that was, and look at the advancement that this has done. We basically, how do we even catch up to that? Or what do we have to do to catch up to that? And competition is a good thing. A lot of people think oh man, if you're in competition with this brand or this brand, you must not get along with them at all, or you must hate them or what have you, right? And I don't view it that way. I think competition is good, not only for every manufacturer to push themselves harder to develop, new technologies or innovations to push the industry further, but ultimately it's better for the end user, the consumer, because they reap the rewards of that. They get to see how the industry is developing. They get to take advantage of, different innovations and apply them to the real world, in a hunting scenario or their backyard shooting or teaching their kids or what have you. And so that's the first thing that comes to mind, is just how the industry overall has just drastically, come along since we released that bow. Now, I'm not going to sit here and, take credit for all of it that Ravin did it, but I guess my point is I can't stress enough how important competition actually is to help the industry move forward.
That's well said.
Yeah, I'd piggyback on that, in that when you look at the product itself, the crossbow, and then within the landscape of crossbow manufacturers, sort of just keeping in that category. To your point, why Ravin? In the 10 years ago, the landscape of crossbows, they were really long, really heavy. The cocking mechanisms were, uh, compared to today, very antiquated, a lot of manual labor, a lot of, what I'd call the pucker factor when you're cocking them and then letting them down. You probably remember there was companies that actually made, projectiles that would decompose that you could shoot into the ground, because when you're in the tree, ground blind, wherever you're hunting, this thing is loaded. You have to unload it if you're not successful. None of us have that problem because we would just let loose we're always successful, right? So introduce Ravin, again, that platform back then. I remember some of those crossbows and some of the competitive set. There were some things that were coming along pretty good, reverse draws and different things. But the platform, the physical platform of it. So when you have a really successful product from a product development standpoint is when you create market disruption through solving problems and issues for the end user. And this was significant in the fact that that the footprint of a Ravin, like I remember that first year at the ATA show, I was there working for another company, and dealers would come by, did you see that Ravin? Did you see that Ravin? Did you see that Ravin? I'm like, I got to see that Ravin.
And what was it specifically you're talking about? The size?
Size. Full draw, hold a dollar bill, and the axle, you know what I mean? And then the landscape of products out there were this big, right? And so the actual footprint and the maneuverability of it. So we've done some polls out there. One we did for a Father's Day giveaway. We had 1,300 plus respondents just this last year, 2025. Asked the question, your method of hunting. Number one was tree stand. So certainly today you got, tree stand hunting, ladder stands. Obviously, getting into saddles is pretty awesome. Then there's ground blind, just their standard pop-up ground blind, and then elevated blinds. Top 3 areas. Think about those big footprint crossbows sitting in that type of stuff. So basically, through that design, you met a lot and solved a lot of the issues that a hunter was having within the category of crossbows. So that was massive market disruption. We won't bore you with all of the technology that's in the crossbow, but accuracy, reliability are 2 of the key things that you're going to see different in a Ravin crossbow.
And being able to repeat that accuracy, reliability, and repeatability. That's huge. I mean, we've seen before at different shoots and things, at consumer shoots or even show shoots, where here we have our targets out set at 100 and the competition only has theirs set at 20 and 30, because that's essentially how confident they are in what the crossbow can do. But here at 100 yards, we got people who step up before that have never even shot a crossbow, get down behind a crossbow, and they're shooting a clay pigeon at 100 yards and breaking it. And the expressions on their face, John and I always say, we wish we could just bottle that somehow, because it just shows kind of like everything that John just mentioned and hit on.
And I got to tag on that. There's something about, Ted, the mystical flight of the arrow, right? I mean, we all love to see an arrow fly. And when you have a lighted nock, you love seeing that. There's something really special when you have the point of view of looking down a barrel. And I'll put my GoPro, I'll mount it to my scope, my crossbow scope. And so you're literally watching in slow motion this nock, not like a vertical bow where it's at a little bit of an angle or below or up on a limb or something, but like where it just, the arrow just goes right through a hog or something. And oh man, just shooting a crossbow is fun because you get like the accuracy of a rifle. I mean, I know it's not a rifle, hundreds of yards, but you get incredible accuracy, but you get the speed that you can still see it and you feel it. There's a felt joy. Before I even incorporated a crossbow into my channel, I was in my backyard at my in-laws' house. They're all Cajuns in Louisiana. And my nephew and his son, Braden keeps wanting to be on one of my videos, so shout out to Braden Wright. But Braden, this little kid, he's an awesome hunter. He and his dad set up their crossbow, and he has a crossbow, and it's set up on a tripod. And here's Braden. He was at the time, I think, like 6, and he's shooting it. Then his twin sister shoots it. Then my wife goes, I want to shoot it. And then my sister-in-law goes, I want to shoot it. And the whole family is sitting there shooting it. There's just something everyone wants to do that. Whereas a rifle, they go, it's too loud. I don't want to do it. And you're in your backyard. Or a vertical bow, they're like, well, it has to be set up for them. I can't pull it. There's something about the fun of just shooting a crossbow that's really unique. I just had to insert that. I've enjoyed the heck out of it.
I look at what you just said, and I think about some of the families that I've met that are shooting, and I say families literally because it's transferable accuracy. Dad buys a crossbow. I've heard multiple scenarios. He buys a crossbow so he can get his kids in it. Then all of a sudden the wife is shooting it, and he's like, "Oh, I'm still using my bow or whatever else." And then I've talked to some of these guys, and they're like, "And then I did it." And so it literally it's like this, it's a transferable accuracy, and regardless of stature of size or age or male or female, it is that accuracy is transferable. And you described it earlier today that I think also that you're still very connected to your game, right? In any discipline, rifle, pistol, vertical bow, traditional archery, certainly crossbows fall into that. You're going to get the guys that shoot extremes, right? Distances, and all this philosophy and principle comes into play. But the reality is it's still, this is a close quarter weapon with that transferable accuracy. And, I can hear the minds of people listening to it. Yeah, but, I mean, get over it, man. It's like, it's fun. So you asked me that 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Would I have a year where, I was able to harvest animals with 3 different weapons, and one of them being a crossbow in one season in 1 year? Yeah, I've done that before because I'm primarily a vertical bow guy, but this year was really fun. Yes, I'm part of the company, but I also wanted to learn about why people are using, going back to that point of knowing without any effort whatsoever by crossbow manufacturers, once it's available, opened up in legislation, the numbers just came. There was no evangelism to, you need to do this. It just happened. So that's something that as an outdoorsman, I like. Get more people out there, share deer camp together.
Yeah, and my appeal to people is just try it. Like, don't knock it till you try it. Like, try shooting a crossbow. And I got to say something, as coming in and spending the last, 24 hours with you guys, you don't get to see your culture. I get to see your culture. I've gotten a tour of the facility, which is just unfreaking believable. All the equipment and robotics and everything and people. But you mentioned the competition driving you, but I have not heard one disparaging word about any other brand or any competition that's out there. And I'm telling you, that's shocking. If I'm with a bunch of ministers, I've been a pastor, I just retired, 40 years in the ministry, you're going to hear disparaging things, pretty much everything. But you're confident in what you have, and you'll say the industry or here's what we've brought that's different, but never one critical thing about other brands. And I got to tell you, it's refreshing. That's not common. As hunters, for whatever reason, we love to compartmentalize and, that bow sucks, that broadhead sucks. Like, I don't know why can't we all get along? But I like that you're confident in what you have, but you don't pull down anybody else to lift yourself up. So that's good on you.
Well, we appreciate that comment. It does mean a lot because since day one, that was kind of, like he had mentioned, some of our VPs at the time when we started and part owners to now who have either moved on or in different facets of the company, that was instilled in us from day one. And we just, really? Yeah, it was. And for good reason. I mean, you can be in competition with everybody else, but you can still be respectful, right? Mm-hmm. And, it's also just as important to be, not only in competition with others, but in competition with yourself is what I'm trying to say. And so that helps drive us as well. And put it this way, it doesn't do us any good to waste time talking poorly about others when we can probably look at ourselves and how can we get better as well. Yeah. So that's something that we've really tried to keep is part of our moral compass here at Ravin, and just be respectful of the competition, those who aren't our competition, and all those around, but drive ourselves. So
I'm glad you brought that up, John, because that's why I'm here. And having I don't have the tenure that Adam and some of these other guys that have been here, again, it's not a very old company at 10 years, but what you just talked about, not talking about, here's my observation. It's not trained behavior when people come on the campus of Ravin or come under the hood of employment. It's not trained behavior, it's common character. And so Adam, I know that, how he kind of explained, hey, one of the people saw him working in a store. They recognized common character in Adam and said, we need him. And that's what's going on here. So, yes, if we can have fun and get geeky with the product, love to do it. But that common character of how the people of Ravin operate is why I'm here. So what other questions do you have for us, if any?
Okay, here's another question. So you referenced, Adam, that 10 years ago, you looked at the industry and said, what's broken or what could be better? What could we do differently? You talked about the size, you talked about the speed, things like this. As you look at it now, the evolution and the progress, oh my gosh. I mean, just in the few years I've been following, you're like 400 feet per second, 500 feet, you're like, what's next? And I see this curve. And then I wonder, when does physics just cap out? And you go, okay, now we're just gonna make little modifications and sell more bows. Or do you look at things now and say, ooh, we can do better? Do you, or are you content with where you're at as a company, or are there things you're striving to do better?
I wouldn't say we're happy with where we're at, but we're not content. We're always striving to be better. Things that happen from year to year aren't just dreamt up in the last 6 months or the last month. We're always looking down the road, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And there's certain milestones to hit on certain projects as you go through that, as John well knows, being from an R&D background in some aspects of some companies. But there's certain pieces to the puzzle that sometimes have to work themselves out, whether that be through R&D and testing, whether that be through different materials that maybe get better over time that you weren't testing at the time of the thought or at the time of inception. And so we're constantly evolving in that aspect, constantly looking at how can we get better? How can we, either make a cam more efficient, or how can we, make a limb design better to get more speed, or, anything and everything. I mean, nothing's off the table. And so, in short, just to kind of summarize, that's really what we're doing. It's never stopping. We never get to a point and say, well, yep, this is what we're going to do for the next 5 years. It's never been in the discussion. Everything's always on the table, and we're always pushing the limits of what we can. Now, I'm not an engineer, nor do I have an engineering background, but, to your point about well, where does physics just, where does it stop you, right? Where do you hit a brick wall? I don't think we're there yet.
No.
So if that's any kind of hint, I don't think we're there yet.
Piggybacking on that, there's runway. I love how you said we're happy but not content. There's runway, and we're well aware of that. The stove is on. Stuff is cooking, for sure. And I think,
Is that like a wink, wink, like stuff is like you have in your mind cool things you see down the road?
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. But but I think that runway is, people are constantly evolving. But to your point about what I would define as diminishing returns, do we have goals to make 1,000 foot a second crossbow? I think the concept of that, there's diminishing returns with just who we are and what this product represents, right? So first and foremost, it's hunting. I heard you ask our president today, Ravin, why is it spelled that way?
Oh, yeah, I did. I should have asked that question here. Well, go ahead.
You ask it. What is it?
I did. I'm like,
I soft pitch, right?
My phone always wants to autocorrect it, Raven.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to train it to go, no, it's Ravin. And then I'm like, well, what is Ravin with an I? And I wondered, is it somebody's last name? So I asked your president that.
Well, hopefully he gave you the right answer. But no, Ravin is actually Latin for violent seizure of prey.
Violent seizure of prey. That's a cool name for a crossbow company.
So look, no matter how you slice it, most of the guys that I know, all of the guys that I know that hunt, there is a moment that you cannot describe that when you, and it's for me, it's like it's like my inner man, my soul, my spirit. There's a reverence for having that connection with what I'm hunting. There's something that happens when you're in the outdoors. This is just a vehicle to allow that moment to happen. So that spirit behind what Ravin is, violent seizure of prey. Everybody has a different definition of what violent is, but I think as it relates to us hunting, there's that moment before you squeeze a trigger, regardless of the weapon you have that has a trigger, release aid, you let the string out of your fingers. There's a moment that it's like, I am going to do that. My perspective, I'm blessed to be able to do that. I love the whole aspect of that hunting. And so it's that moment that is that violent seizure of prey that is really like touches why we're doing what we're doing. So going back to the diminishing returns of a crossbow that weighs 2 pounds and shoots 1,000 foot a second. And we have innovation and we have stuff that's cooking. Like I said, the stove is on, but we don't want to leave, or forsake what that moment is and how we can facilitate that better for the end user.
That's good.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah. Any other questions you have for us?
I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So you kind of started to lead to how you got into crossbows and explained why you wanted to include that in your channel. But I guess I'm curious from your perspective, what led you to Ravin specifically? Why not, another company or something of that nature?
That's a good question. So I was at an ATA show a couple of years ago. It was when it was in St. Louis. And I went there, and one of the goals that I had was to get to know different crossbow companies and representatives and possibly get a partnership with a crossbow company. And I talked to a bunch of different ones who were there. The ATA not everybody was going to the ATA. It was post-pandemic, and so it decreased. Not all of them were represented, but I loved the different ones that I talked to and got really connected with one and have enjoyed it. I mean, I've enjoyed the heck out of it. I have nothing but good things to say about the people and about the company, and it's worked out really well for me for the last 1.5 to 2 years. But I did feel like I want my channel to go to the next level. My viewership has grown. I want my testing process to grow. I've tested hundreds of different broadheads, and I want to test hundreds more. And so I'm always pressing the envelope like you are as a company. I am with my platform thinking, how can I do better testing? And my theme is, I say all the time, serious testing, successful hunting. Like that's my little tagline, because I want to test stuff really seriously so that we can be more successful in the field. And as I've thought about and analyzed my crossbow platform, I go, okay, I think Ravin presents me with the best options. And so it literally was my first choice of, okay, I wanna go to a next level in crossbows, and I'd like a crossbow company that has a wide range of price points. So it's not just everything's $10,000 or something like that, but there's a wide range, and that has a reputation for great innovation, and that is really pushing the envelope to do better and better and better. And everything I looked at and read about with Ravin was just really appealing in that regard. So I prayed about it, honestly, if I'm really honest, and said, God, lead me in the right direction. And then, it all worked out, and here I sit. But it was my first question. It was my first, choice. And I didn't have anything against the previous company that I was associated with. I have a great relationship with them and love all that they do. But I just thought it could help my channel go to the next level. Sure. And I thought it could help my viewers to get more out of my testing if I had the use of the accuracy, the durability. Oh, that was another thing beyond the accuracy. So for my testing, I need something really accurate, and I need something really durable. I was talking to a friend who created a really significant broadhead in the industry that's taken the industry by storm in recent years. And I was asking him about crossbows, and he said, of course, we use crossbows in a lot of our testing, and he's not associated with you guys at all. But he said, straight up, Ravin is by far the most durable. He goes, we have them all. and we shoot, a bunch of them. He goes, but the ones that just keep lasting with all their rigorous testing is the Ravens. And he said, they're our go-to one. And that was just one more piece of information, a testimony from somebody that's completely outside the fray that just was confirming my thoughts.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
thanks to him. Thank you
Yeah.
to him.
That's awesome. It's good to hear,
It is
that
good to hear.
third-party validation.
For sure.
I have another question for you. Tell me about John Lusk and just slightly before your first broadhead video, and then to where it's navigated today. What got you? What got you to this point?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So I grew up loving archery. My dad was an archer. He's really busy. He's a vice admiral in the Coast Guard. He was the vice commandant of the whole Coast Guard, like number 2 in charge of the whole Coast Guard. Super busy, but always made time to take us fishing and hunting and trained us, me and my brother, in archery and my sisters. So I grew up with a love for the outdoors, and I carried it on and loved shooting. But I'm an engineer. I have a degree in civil engineering, and I think analytically. And so when it came to broadhead choice, I just think, beyond, first it was just, what's the cheapest I can buy? Oh, Walmart. I remember the Allen broadheads at Walmart.
Oh, wow.
$6 for 3. I'm like, yeah. And then I remember shooting a deer and it broke in half. I'm like, what? And that was kind of my first lesson learned, that you get what you pay for sometimes. And so it started me down this journey of, well, what is a good broadhead? And I started researching more and more on archery talk, reading the threads and the posts, and reading in magazines and looking at different tests. And it just intrigued me. And the combination of my engineer training of how testing should be methodical and repeatable and consistent methods, consistent mediums, uniform mediums, and things like that, I just had all kinds of thoughts. And then I thought, well, let me kind of do some testing. And at the time, I happened to win not a raffle, I didn't buy anything, but win a drawing for a really expensive broadhead from Bishop Archery, their first broadhead. And I got one. It cost $120 for one broadhead. And he sent it to me, and I said, okay, I'll test it. And then he said, hey, do whatever you want to test it. Maybe make a video and put it on your channel. Because I had a very tiny, just for fun, a YouTube channel with some hog hunting. And so I go, okay. So I took this broadhead and I was shooting it I was like, what can I shoot it with? I shot it into wood. I shot it into cardboard. It was on Halloween. I shot it into a pumpkin to see the rotation of the single bevel. Shot it into a steel flat bar. A big rock in our backyard. Like, I'm just shooting. I shot it in a dinner plate. My wife is like, stay away from my stuff. I had so much fun. And I just had a crappy little camera, out back. But I was doing that. And then I posted it and people started watching it. And I thought, ooh, I could do a lot of these videos. Whereas hunts, I can only go on so many hunts a year. And YouTube still not very friendly about bloodletting and stuff. But gear testing, hey. So I started doing more and more of that, and it evolved. And then people are like, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And I think, oh, I could do better at this. And so then it is just, if you looked at my early broadhead testing, 2015, I think it is 16, to now, oh my goodness, so much evolution. And every year I'm trying to press the envelope of what can I do to have more serious testing so we can have successful hunting. And I get flack, I'll shoot it through steel plate. I'll shoot a broadhead through into cinder block. We don't hunt steel plate. Everybody thinks they're the first. I dropped my mic. Should we pause it?
No.
Is it? I lost something that was keeping the magnet.
That'll make the fun roll.
Oh, it's right here. It's stuck right to the.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The man is still. We're leaving that in. That's awesome. Yeah, magnets and metal frames there. But
I forgot what I was saying.
you were talking about some people give you flack or shooting.
Yeah. And they all think they're original. There's no deer I've seen in the woods that has steel-plated armor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been hearing this for 7 years, and I understand that. But I want, again, extreme testing, right? Because I want to see, what's the point of failure? Why put it through tests that every broadhead can pass? And then I tell people, well, if you had to choose between a broadhead that can hold up to a shot in cinder block and one that can't, all other things equal, I know which one I'm going to choose. You know, why not? It's just more information. And that's my goal. Provide data points. Just data points that are fair, objective data points that people can use to determine what's the best broadhead for their choice.
Well, and you know, that's one thing, you know, as fans of yours, John, over the years, you know, in these offices here, you know, we as compound hunters and crossbow hunters, both alike, you know, we've sat in offices having a cup of coffee for, you know, in the morning and discussed, hey, did you watch that new John Lusk video that came out on that broadhead? But the reason for that is because you are a trusted source, and why it made sense for us to partner with you is because not only are you trusted, but you're trusted because it's clear that you are setting, you know, these guardrails that are the same for every broadhead you test. So everything's controlled, everything's consistent. You're not deviating for one broadhead company versus another. You know, you're impartial to all of them, but you give them all a fair shot. And so we appreciated that as fans, because although we test a lot of broadheads here for accuracy out of our crossbows, we can't test them all. You test like everything. You know, there's broadheads that I've never even heard of that sometimes that you test. And it's fun to see it because it gives us confidence then if we want to try something new or we want to bring one in, maybe we see that it scored well for you. We brought it in and tested it ourselves here with our crossbows. And now we've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I love that. I love taking a broadhead that nobody's heard of. And my viewers do a great job. Have you heard of this one?
Yeah.
Have you heard of this one? And I'm
Yeah,
like,
they
no,
do.
I never
They
heard
really
of that.
do.
And you go, how does a broadhead company, say some dude, it's his dream to create this broadhead. How does he get it out there? You know, he didn't have a big marketing budget. I like finding those things. And I go, I'll test it. But I tell him, hey, I'm going to be honest. Like, it's not going to be me. The broadhead's going to do what the broadhead's going to do. I'm just going to do the testing. So I try to come up with a scoring system to make it more objective. So my commentary is more analytically driven than it is subjectively driven. I'll be honest, in my earlier years, especially probably the earlier first year, I was too negative. Like if a broadhead didn't do good, I'm like, look at this piece of crap, you know? And I feel so bad. I've gone back and apologized to a number of manufacturers. And I mean, in all sincerity, I'm really sorry. This was their dream. And I just, you know, blanked on it, you know? And so I've changed that where I go, I'm going to be respectful. It's somebody's dream. They've done their best, but I'm going to be honest and let the tests speak for themselves. And again, then the viewer can choose. And I'm surprised. Sometimes I think, man, I'd never hunt with that. And people go, that's my favorite broadhead. I'm like, more power to you. All I can do is give you data points. You make the choice. And so I like providing that. And I like to think, like I'm sure you guys do in the industry, I like to think that there's a higher lethality rate in hunting. There's a higher success rate. Again, the series testing, successful hunting, that hunters are more successful based on the data points I can provide that can make their selection a bit easier, less confusing.
Yeah, what a awesome source. You know, the philosophy of that saying, one size fits all, it's an upriver stream swim to try to change that in people's minds when you overlay that with broadheads. There's like, what I mean by that is, I know for me, I've always been kind of a geek with broadheads, and I'd have people ask me, what broadhead are you using? And I'm like, I don't remember a season when I haven't had 3 or 4 different broadheads.
You're me, man. That's me
right?
too. Yeah.
And so without going into the weeds of making sure you have good, you know, proper form, because we're the moving target, that you know, the bigger piece to accuracy, right? But you know, proper form, proper fitment, and you know, a good equipment, properly tuned. Let's just assume that's all, you know, okay, right? But having a one size fits all broadhead, I like your information and data. You provide like a spreadsheet that I've gone and combed through, right? So shooting a compound, I've had years where I've shot heavy arrows, light arrows. Nobody talks about heavy and light arrows anymore, do they? Like, that's not a hot topic. Just joking. It's so that people go off on that.
I'm like, wait,
yeah,
what?
people go off on that type of stuff, right? But I've shot animals with very light arrows, very heavy arrows, you know, and I've shot fast bows. You know, when I say fast for me, you know, back in the day, I've eke things up to 300, 305 foot a second. And I've shot as slow as, 220 foot a second. I shot a Cape Buffalo at 198 foot a second. My choice at that speed for those animals was completely different. Your data that you provide, you can go, what's important to me?
Yeah.
Penetration, and you go down, and then how durable. And to me, I think that is something that I was able to extract from the data that you produce, because I shoot a lot of projectiles with pointy things on the end, but in a lot of different situations. And so I think for, if you have people that are, penetration is going to be important to, if you don't have enough oomph behind your bow, regardless of the, the person that you are, maybe you're shooting slower, shorter draw lengths, whatever that might be. Flight characteristics are obviously pretty significant. Western hunters, it's nice to have things that are a little more forgiving, that can be shot from 40 to 80 yards, right? Versus the average whitetail is probably still inside of 20 yards for vertical bow guys, Not to say that you're going, I don't need accuracy. The window of forgiveness is a lot better, so it opens up more opportunity to go through your information and go, what's important to me? So
good. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I agree. And I like to educate people beyond just testing this one particular broadhead they may or may not be interested in. I hope I'm educating people to where they start to think, oh yeah, what am I going after? Is what matters to me most? Is it flight? Is it penetration? Is it durability? Is it sharpness, edge retention, cut size? What do I want? Most people don't think. They just think, what broadhead should I use? And that's my biggest question I get is, hey man, off the record, what's the best one? And I love the question, and I hate the question. And I just go, well tell me more. And I've answered this a million times. What are you hunting? What's your shot distance? Tell me your setup. What's your draw weight, your draw length, your arrow weight. And then I can kind of go, you got to look at these, because there's such diversity out there. So there's not a one size fits all, to your point. But I hope people are learning that more and more.
Yeah, they really are. Well, we could talk for hours. I know that, because since yesterday we've been talking for hours, and it can go, on forever. But we don't want to bore people. But I want to finish up with a personal observation I made about what you've done. And my perspective is that you, in the broadhead industry, you've changed the industry in a positive way. And you commented, we were just having some lunch talk today, and you had kind of shared that humbly, but not directly because it was of you. But I think because so many people watch what you do and how you've tested and the way that you test, it's got within the eyes of manufacturers out there. And so when you start looking at sharpness testing and durability testing and different things, in the last, I would say, 6 years. Why 6? It's a nice even number. It's just a little more round than 5. But when you look at the advancement of mechanicals and fixed blades, as they're beginning to trend, as an advantageous, product to use. They've always existed, right? But the design of these broadheads from sharpness is a big one. You can quantify, watching your early videos to now, and you look at the range of sharpness that's out there, everybody's, it's advancing. And I think it's because of awareness, not that maybe you're like you have a bat phone and people are calling you, but I think it's because manufacturers that are smart look at that and they know what's important to people, flight, all the criteria that you have. So I just want to tell you, thank you for what you've done for the broadhead industry, but also the outdoor industry as a whole. But then just as a person, we've had the opportunity to spend, in aggregate hours on the phone. Inevitably, we're talking about life, personal things we're going through, had the ability to talk together, pray together, and still talk about all of this stuff. And so I want to thank you for being who you are and how you've changed the industry. And welcome to, our family. And similarly, I know that you're welcoming us to yours, and looking forward to the future.
Thank you, John. That means a lot. Yeah, I appreciate it.
You bet. Adam, I don't know if you have anything to...
No, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better myself, so I'm not even going to try. But we're just really excited, John. We really are. I mean, it's a really big deal for us to partner with you. Like I said, to start, we can tell how genuine you are, as a person, and through your testing and your results and things of that nature, and the way you carry yourself, being able to spend some time face to face versus on the phone. in the last 24 hours, and we're just very excited to incorporate someone new into the Ravin family. From your style of entertainment per se and education to the outdoor, men and women. But yeah, we share very similar values, and we're just very excited for the next year. So
Thank you. Thanks so much for this. Thanks for this platform to talk this evening, and I really appreciate it. And just the promise of the partnership for the year to come. I really look forward to seeing what unfolds in the days ahead, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we're excited. You inspire us to be better, but hopefully, the combination of the partnership can, enlighten, educate, and, hopefully advance people in their pursuits in the outdoors. That's what I think fundamentally what we're all part of. So with that, we'll give this a wrap. John, again, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Adam, I love you, man. God, the power. That's a wrap. Look up John Lusk Archery Adventures on YouTube. And we're excited for a partnership. I'm being redundant. That's a wrap.